So, being a professional athlete can be really hard, especially playing in the National Hockey League. Hockey is well known for being a very brutal and fast paced sport. In my opinion, I feel that no other position in hockey is as tough as being an enforcer. A lot of people will probably try to tell you that enforcers aren't needed and that they're basically obsolete and they provide no substance to the game itself. However, throughout my speech, I'm going to try to persuade you to agree with me that enforcers still have a place in the game by talking about what they are, why they're important, and what can happen when they're not there for their team. Austin Murphy of the New York Times quoted Stu Grissom as saying, "If you don't have that person on your roster, other teams will play you differently and they will take liberties with your skilled players." So with that being said, I'm going to start off with talking a little bit about what enforcers are. Often when you hear the word enforcers, you also hear the word goons. Goons means that they have no skills pertaining to the game, they don't know anything, they're just stupid players, and that all they're there to do is fight and just knock somebody out all the time. But a lot of past and current players hate being called goons because they actually know how to play, and more often than not, they have a reason to fight. Austin Murphy defines the NHL's modern enforcer in his 2011 New York Times article as a hard-nosed, well-rounded player who, when the need arises, will knock a bully's lights out. So next, I'm going to explain why they're important to the game. So in the documentary Ice Guardians, Jeff Merrick states traditionally the enforcer is that shark in the water that's there to make sure that the skilled players don't get taken advantage of. If the enforcer is really good at his job of protecting his teammates and the game itself, then he doesn't even have to be on the ice to protect his teammates. Opposing teams will just see him on the bench and they won't even want to mess with the skilled players on his team because they don't want to get in a fight with him. So, two players I'm going to quickly talk about are Wayne Gretzky and Sidney Crosby. Wayne Gretzky is known to be one of the best players to have ever played the game. He had multiple enforcers throughout his career. He knew that he needed them, and Dave Semenko and Marty McSorley are greatly credited with how well his career went. Because without them, Gretzky probably wouldn't have lasted as long, and his career probably would have ended pretty fast due to being injured by opposing team members. The next player is Sidney Crosby. He currently plays for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he's an example of what happens when you don't really have an enforcer. A lot of other teams, like the first quote from Stu Grissom stated, take the liberties with him because he is seen as a very highly skilled player, but he doesn't have that enforcer to have his back. So other teams do attack him, and they do try to injure him and take him out of the game just because they know they won't have to face any retribution or revenge. So lastly, I'm going to talk a bit about what can happen when there are no enforcers on the team or on the ice. In the European Continental Leagues, there's rules against fighting, meaning there's no enforcers in those leagues. And since there's no enforcers in those leagues, the play gets a lot dirtier, and it's just honestly a lot more brutal than what we see in the NHL because there's nobody to back up the skilled players on the teams. And the opposing players will gladly take the penalty if it means that they win the game for taking out the best scoring player on the other team. An example of this is the 72 Summit Series, Canada versus Russia. Red Fisher states in his Montreal Gazette article from 2012 that this game was notable as well for a slashing minor and a misconduct to Bobby Clark midway through the second period. So what happened was that Clark chased down Karlamov when they were supposed to do after the face-off. And instead of going to get the puck, he two-handed Karlamov's ankle, broke it in 3 places, ultimately ending Karlamov's career and taking out the Soviets' best player throughout the series. In conclusion, hockey can be dangerous with enforcers, definitely. However, it, without a doubt, gets more dangerous without somebody there to police the opposing players and just keep their teammates and the game itself safe. To quote Gino Ojic about Wayne Gretzky, if the greatest player in the game felt that he needed to have an enforcer with him, then that should really answer all of your questions. To summarize, I talked a bit about what enforcers are, why they're important, and what can happen when they're not there. Being an enforcer is a very tough job. However, it is very necessary for the protection of the players and the game. I feel Howard Bloom said it best. What does the enforcer call on? Profound loyalty. Loyalty so deep that he's willing to risk his own structure, his own body, his own bones, his own teeth, and his own brain on behalf of protecting people he deeply loves. The enforcer is the most ethical and moral member of the tribe, and this is because he is willing to undergo such incredible sacrifice.